I'm Norm Poltenson, the publisher of the Business Journal, and I'm here with Steve Fournier, who's the regional president of KeyBank. And we're here because of a discussion based on legacy awards, which we have created this year. We want to take an opportunity to look back over 25 years of publishing of the Business Journal and get some impressions about what's happened to our community and the changes you see in business over the last 25 years. So, Steve, let me start out with a question based on the last quarter century. What have you seen in terms of changes in the economy? And I say that from the standpoint that 25 years ago, if you looked at our book of lists, you'd see a lot of manufacturers who were the biggest employers in the area. Now, if you look at it, you're into the meds and eds side of it. What observation do you have?
Well, certainly technology has had a huge impact on everyone's business, and I think that has allowed for some of the both eds and meds and some niche technology firms to grow in that time period. But for us, I think it's really, for Key, we really have had to be, I won't say specialized, but really understand more about our clients' businesses, particularly in healthcare or public sector or higher education. We've had to really rise to their level of expectation and really anticipate some of those changes before they happen.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the changes that we're talking about for decades now, we've seen a very slow growth or no growth pattern here in our upstate region. And we've seen an out-migration of businesses and people. How has KeyBank adjusted to the change in the way our economy flows?
Well, there's no question we've had to adapt like many other businesses have. And I think one of the single biggest strategic differences, we've had to be more relationship focused. Understanding more in anticipation of our clients' needs and expectations because they have choices. So at Key, we're not a transactional, don't have a transactional orientation, but a relationship orientation. So that's probably one of the single biggest factor. But we've also had to adapt to some of the demographics. For example, really, if you look at some of our urban communities, we still have branches in our urban setting, but we've looked for opportunities to grow out in the suburban area as well, albeit reposition branches or what have you.
I'm glad you brought up the subject of branches, because if you and I were sitting here 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the mantra was, we don't need bricks and mortar anymore. Yeah. All this technology is going to let us communicate directly and we can get rid of the branches. And yet we see a continued growth of branches. What have you found out in terms of what the customers really want?
Well, yeah, it's a great question, because I think what has happened is that there's been more multi-channel users. Net at the end of the day, we have more transactions, less in the branches certainly, but we found out that clients want both. They want to use the telephone, they want to use their computer, online banking, and they want to use the branch, and they want choices. So as we see that continue to evolve, whether it's through different payment systems now, telephone, so we've really had to rise again to our clients' level of needs and expectations.
I like that reference to multi-channel. I can relate to that. In terms of the number of employees in KeyBank over the past 25 years, have you seen a change in terms of the numbers? Have you seen a change in the kinds of employees? For example, do they need to be better educated because you have more products and more sophisticated products?
In terms of sheer numbers, certainly the technology has impacted our workforce. I will tell you the last few years we've had a net add over the last 5 years versus the prior 20. It was certainly, again, that was the advent of the technology, whether ATM or online banking, so it's had a big impact on that.
A number of employees are working very hard to find the right, and employers are finding it difficult to find the right employees that they want, and you refer to reinstituting your management program. Are you doing that then internally? It's not as though it's easy to go out externally and find the people who want. You have to bring them up through the ranks.
Yeah, I mean, we first of all, Key recruits from local colleges and universities in the Central New York area, so we want to, once we bring them in, we want them to stay here. But also, we start them at, certainly in the branches, but give them some lateral movement to do other jobs, whether it's commercial banking, private banking, branch management, so we have give them a broad array of exposure to different business opportunities within the bank to allow them to grow.
Well, let's go back 25 years and take a look at the challenges that the banking industry faces. And my suspicion is you have a lot of challenges like the rest of us.
Yeah.
How have things changed in 25 years in terms of banking?
Well, certainly it's, where do you start? Certainly there's been a lot of change.
Well, let's start with the image that says, it was 9, 12, and 3? The banker came in at 9, he had lunch at 12, and he went on the golf course at 3?
Yeah.
Has that changed?
Yeah, I think that certainly the hour structure has changed. I'm not sure it was ever. Being in banking for 26 years, I never was a 9 to 3er, but you're right. I think the perception of banking, hopefully has changed over the years. Again, very relationship-centric, really being more proactive to our clients' needs and expectations. The other piece is the regulation is certainly of late has impacted our business, both good and bad. I think from a consumer standpoint, it's been helpful. It's been better, certainly from a consumer standpoint. However, there are unintended consequences. Certainly the number of hours that were spent on unraveling some of the legislation and the compliance requirements, which are necessary in a lot of cases. But that's time that we take away from our clients too, being in front of our clients and better understanding their needs.
Plus the expense it adds to comply with the regulations, which undoubtedly you have to pass on to the consumer.
Oh, absolutely. The expenses had been burdensome, but our response to passing that on to the consumer is to give them choices. So certainly they can steer clear of fees through greater options and greater choice. That was the other thing, Norm, you mentioned. I said over the last 25 years, just the product differentiation in banking has changed significantly. And you used to walk in and get a checking, savings, consumer loans, maybe a commercial loan. It's changed significantly, the product complexity and so on. So our job is really to make it simpler for the client to understand.
Are there any other subjects that we haven't covered that you think are important or critical or you'd like to add to the conversation?
And I think we touched on a lot. I think in terms of, you had mentioned about the manufacturing to eds and meds. Let's not lose sight of the service sector within that, and the importance of the service sector. And I view financial services to be a part of that as well. Mm-hmm. I think some of the things that Key needs to be successful to like these businesses to be sustainable in the future. It's how we're proactively serving our clients, not just being knowledgeable, but how we react to them in a timely fashion. So not just for Key, but for other businesses here in this community. I think we got to be more mindful of how we're engaging our clients. And I think that really, if I think of these businesses that we're honoring today or tonight, that's one of the commonalities that they have. They're very much focus on the servant leadership of recognizing their clients. And once you inverse that pyramid, I think it's a mark of a very strong business.
Steve, thank you.